these are probably my best pieces. This is the best body of work I've actually hung in one place. So my friends and family and people in Hull get to see probably my A game, I hope anyway. For me, my favourite part of exhibitions is always the first night, when people go and they talk and they drink. And then I remember whenever the galleries I'd shown in London, if you go the next day, it'd be really quiet and there'd be nobody there. I kind of like the idea of having a bit more of a party, really, because my friends live here, and to show in London means that you can't get people to travel, you know, however many 100 miles for a Thursday night for 4 hours. It's quite nice. This is a great venue for it. It's kind of scuzzy and kind of urban, and it has gigs on, and it's got a bar and everything. They see fruit, they go, oh, it's a fruit. If it was a gallery, they'd be like, oh, God, I've got to go in there, and you know, they're going to ask me if I'm interested in buying it and stuff. And there is none of that here. There's no titles, there's no prices, there's nothing like that. It's just come and have a look. Hope you like it.
How come you have a favourite? Is that a favourite because of the time it's painted, or the way it looks now, or the process of doing it?
It's hard to say. That's the weird thing. I'd say it's not the ones I like and the ones that other people like are never the same. Like the one with the crown, the female with the crown of twigs. A lot of people like that. I would say it's not my favourite, but it's one that a lot of people seem to like. The same with the one with the two heads, a Simi. A lot of people like that one. They really like it. They think it's quite different from my style. But again, I don't look at it and get as much from it. I think with Era, I think it was the first one where it didn't really have the kind of darkness or the kind of underlying violence that some of my earlier work had. You know, the stitched mouths and the eyes and everything. It looks like a beautiful figure, but in my style. When I did it, I thought, do you know, I think most people could appreciate that and not be someone who, you know, maybe not someone who's into my work would like that one. So it sort of felt like I changed gear a little bit. But no, the darkness is still there. Every now and again there's a little glimmer of light, but it's generally, there's always a bit of a dark twist to it.
We have a thing in Neurocreator, you know, we model what it is creators do. See if we can get a universal model that goes across the whole process and helps us separate things. And one of the things is performance positions. We would say, you know, like the painter, you paint, and that's in performance zone. Then you step back and look at it, and that's in a reviewing, reflective place. And I often say to them, now would you think this is true, or am I just lying to them? I often say, you know, when a creator does something, they make that bit, and then they step back and you look at the work, and the work means nothing about you. Then you can step in and get on with it again. Then you can step back out and the work exists. When it's done, it's on its own, it lives in the world. And
there is that stepping back is when you take it away from your own subconscious and you start to be critical yourself. Is the mark right? Does that hang well with the rest of it? The actual doing it yourself, I think, is that kind of subconscious. The reason you're doing it is in there. And I think when you step back, you have to just start to evaluate it as a whole.
And then there's the audience who watch it. And if you get those three right, I find, you know, with the stuff we do at Creative College, they're happy.
I mean, that's the thing with my work. I didn't realise, I was completely oblivious to it, but it's ridiculous that I was, because it's so obvious, is that when I tried to send my work to magazines and stuff, and I mean, good websites picked up on it, like Juxtapose, and a load of the other sort of street art, urban blogs were more than happy to publish my work, but quite a few sort of maybe slightly more conservative blogs and magazines were like, well, there's too much nudity in it. And I was like, oh yeah, shit, I do nudes, don't I? Oh yeah, I make loads of nudes. There's loads of you know, breasts and genitals and all that kind of stuff, but I'd never actually really thought of that.
You used the word violence, and I suppose that's as good a word as any. There's like a sort of a horror genre going on for me.
Yeah, especially with something like Rook. Yeah, I mean, that's a piece that I think when I did it, a lot of people on, you know, different websites and Tumblr and social media were like, oh, I love that one, that's so cool. But I look at it now and it kind of looks quite juvenile to me. That's why I've taken it off the stretcher. I'm going to probably get rid of it after this show. I just taped it on the wall. I don't have much time for it. I feel much more proud of something like Nisimi, that one, which is angular and elegant and still has a more subtle kind of darkness to it. I don't think it's got that kind of blistering, raw ugliness that one has. That one has got, I think it's got a bit more to it. I think it's got a bit more layer to it. Although saying that, there's the black head one, that one with the bear, it's like a burnt charred skull. I only did that a few months ago, and I don't know what made me want to do that one, but I just felt like doing something with a lot of black in it. So there's me saying I want to get rid of all the horror from my work and then do a big charred, melting, flaming head. So, I don't know. Different days.
How do you do the work? Do you think of it and then start to do it, or do you start to just go in and perform and see what happens?
Yeah, well, the best examples I can give is this one era and some of the drawings over there. My wife used to study contemporary dance, so she got me into watching like really out there avant-garde dance stuff, and I just loved seeing how they moved. And it was really hard to find photographs of it because it's really hard to photograph. You don't find many people that can. It's always, I don't know, like dance is always really corny. It's people in leotards doing these very expressive things, and the actual raw midpoints of the dance is really, it's rare that you can see it photographed. So I started watching or finding DVDs of avant-garde dance companies or contemporary dance, and I would try and pause it in the midsection when you would just see something. And sometimes, like with Era, the figure originally had like a leotard on, but you could see everything on because it was like a grey leotard, so you didn't need to do much to just strip it all away. So there was a moment in the dance where the figure sort of did this movement. I think she was writhing on the floor. I don't think she was jumping. And I freeze framed it and just pulled the clothing off and just left it as it was, and it really worked. So that was a case of just seeing it. With that one, Unsystematic, that had the pose in mind. I was inspired by a guy called Rob Sample. We were doing the exhibition that it was supposed to be in. We were working off, inspired by each other's work. I'd seen one of his paintings. I thought, I want to do my own version. That's where that one comes from. That one was posed. There was a guy called Luke Lavelle who's modelled for some of my paintings. There's not many here. There's another one there of Luke, actually. And that was the case where I got him in a model called Cassie Jade. And I just had a few poses in mind and asked them to just act them out and just photograph them with a guy called Dan Urban, who's a friend. And in between the ones that I had in mind, every now and again there'd be another one, and that was one of the other ones. So it's a bit of having an idea and then trying to get a model to recreate it, and then sometimes it's more a case of you just see something and you alter it massively, but the initial bit is there. It's like there's no background in that one, there's no clothing, there's none of the other figures, there's nothing else that was going on in that scene, just the movement. And that's it, it's fine, it's distilling that one thing that kind of fascinates you. And I think for me it's unusual movements. So often with people, when you see people who are figurative painters, they have to get them to sit from a live model, so they have very stiff poses, sat, laying down, stiff, awkward. Whereas I always think it's like that moment when you just, that freeze, that kind of tension in someone's body. I find that more interesting than a stayed figure. God, I'm rambling.
There's a third position of the audience, which is what we'll see tonight when they come in. And I often think that this is very much a gig.
Yeah.
And people come, and the pleasure I think we get from a work of art is that we've watched the artist work with the genres, work with the forms. You can kind of trace the story of what they've thought whilst they've been doing it. And you see this is a record of a performance in many ways.
Yeah, it happened, and that's its...
Yeah, at some point somebody decided to start, and then you decided to stop, and in between all this other stuff happened, and we can watch that and take pleasure from those decisions, and I guess through those decisions learn something about the world, or your world, or our world, and all that kind of stuff. So I like this, a one night.
Yeah,
one night.
I like to think it'll only happen once, and it's happened in this place. That's the thing with, I guess with that, is the pieces themselves are there. They'll always be there, but in this configuration, in this room with these people, that's a one-off. It's kind of like, I guess it's like theatre. It must be hard to, when people go to the theatre and they see a really great performance, the actors must know that it might not happen again. It's kind of written in the sand. It's just going to move, and it may never quite be as magic. I like to think, hopefully, this event, the people that are going to come will make it like a bit of a one-off. I hope anyway. What you want to achieve always changes, and that's the hardest thing. When you do a work and you walk away from it, there's that really nice 10 minutes straight afterwards. You think, I've nailed it, and it looks good, and it feels good, and it's there. And then that feeling kind of slightly erode a little bit. Done a blank background again. It's just squared it again. It's the same old thing. And there is that real lovely rush straight afterwards, and there's that sort of lingering doubt in your mind, and I don't know. But that's what pushes you forward, is the need to improve. I think it's the reason why I've been working on more drawings recently, apart from the side I've become a dad and I don't have as much time to prime canvases and work on a bigger scale, is I think I've ignored detail for quite a while. There's some of these pieces that have got very little detail in them at all. That one, Ruck, for instance, is bare bones, really. When I look at that, I don't see anything that I like. But the drawings that I've done recently, I actually like them. I actually kind of appreciate them, because as opposed to being confronted with the figure, like a lot of these paintings are, it's like the back of people's heads and hair coming over their faces, or the two there where the figures are in fetal positions, turned away. There's no exaggerated poses. It's more defenceless and more, I don't know, more kind of what I liked in Degas' work, when you would see women washing and you would see very sort of touching moments. I didn't think I could do that, really. I always thought I was the guy who did dynamic, edging sort of poses, and the idea to do figures in a moment of vulnerability, like real genuine vulnerability, not just looking naked and looking a bit coy, but genuinely looking like there's something is wrong, and there's almost a kind of a narrative in the background of that. I didn't think I could do that and make it look like my own work, but I think with some of the recent works on paper, I think it's hopefully worked. It feels good. It feels good to look at them. I feel proud of them. So that's the hope, is that I carry on in that sort of vein.
Is that part of being a father now, that you can take more interest in those humdrum daily bits, and you don't need the drama, you don't need the big stage?
Yeah, maybe.
You've noticed
it is the smallest things that really make your day when you've got a child. It's just making him laugh. That's the best thing in the world. That absolutely makes my day, when he really properly laughs. But before I had him, I don't think I would imagine me saying that. I would have thought, oh yeah, it'd be nice if you laugh. Yeah, it's great. But no, it really makes your day. And I think as well, I mean, the first sort of photograph I took of him, and I've only just realised that when I'm talking to you now, was on our bed when we brought him home. He was just there. He was just in this little tiny position, and it was so gorgeous and so, I don't know, it twanged on about 15 different emotional strings. Whereas I think I wouldn't have been as affected by it. I wanted the darkness and the boldness and the strikingness, but I think small moments do actually get to people. If you do it right, if you do it with sensitivity and you do it with some grace, you can actually, and that's something I think I've started to maybe understand, and hopefully it'll go into my work more, I reckon.